ones will remember that reference. Hello, it is December 26th. It's the day after Christmas. And I wanted to make this vlog because I want to talk about what I read this December. It was, spoiler alert, a little bit disappointing, but that's okay. And then I kind of just wanted to go through refreshing, resetting, not for the new year necessarily, but just like post-Christmas, because there's like a lot of just stuff out that I'm like, it's time to get rid of this. I had a good Christmas Eve and a good Christmas Day, but I'm just sort of ready to refresh. Last year I was like, let's keep the Christmas vibe going kind of into the new year, but I don't think I'm feeling that way this year. I think I was kind of in a funk for a good bit of December, and then I was sort of like not really in the Christmas spirit at all. And leading up to Christmas Eve, I was kind of dreading it just a little because I was like, I'm not in the Christmas spirit. I don't really want to get to like the peak of Christmas and feel really sad and low, because you know, weird feelings come up during the holidays sometimes, not always, but I feel like for me, I was just feeling a lot of like strange things that I couldn't really identify what they were. I ended up having a really nice time on Christmas Eve. I was at 2 different houses, so it was like pretty busy, and they both ended up being really good. I was like nervous for the second place that we went because it's like more my parents' friends, so I didn't really know them super well, but ended up being people like my age, and it was good. I felt fine, but I had like a lot of anxiety about that at the beginning of the day, and then later it just like all dissipated, and I was like, we had a good Christmas Eve. And then Christmas Day is always different. I feel like Christmas Eve is the party and Christmas Day is like the peace or the quiet, however you want to look at it, because quiet can be kind of like, ugh, this is awkward, and then peace can be kind of like, I'm vibing. But yesterday it was a little too quiet because I am the type of person, I have to leave my house every single day or I will go insane. I don't know what that is. Doesn't matter what time, where, what I'm doing, I will leave. And that's actually kind of like, I feel like what contributes to like spending too much at Starbucks, or like going to Starbucks too much, or just spending money, because I have to leave my house. Like if I'm not seeing a friend, if I don't go to the gym or a workout class, like I will go to Starbucks, I will go to Target, I will go on a walk. But if it's winter and it's rainy and cold and stuff, I don't really go on my walk. So anyways, Christmas Day yesterday was like really rainy, and it's still rainy today, so I didn't even really get to go on a walk. And there was talk about going to a movie, but we didn't end up doing that. So I was in the house all day. I mean, the beginning of the day was nice because it was like not as dreary. I watched The Holiday, and what else did I do? Oh, I mean, we opened gifts, and then I kind of just took it easy. But then of course, like my plans, like go on a walk and stuff, like did not come into fruition. And then I took a nap, and I don't know about y'all, but I can't take naps because I wake up from them feeling ill. I barely take naps, but I went to bed at 4 a.m. yesterday, like because of the Christmas Eve functions I was at. So I went to bed at 4 a.m. and I took a nap, and I woke up and I felt ill. I felt nauseous, like I usually do when I take a nap. That's why I don't take them, but I also don't really need them. I'm going off on so many tangents. That's how my Christmas Eve and Christmas Day went. So now I'm like, Christmas Day is done. I love Christmas Eve. I feel like I tend to find Christmas Day a little bit like, because I can't leave my house. So let me know how y'all's Christmas went, how it was, if you relate to any of this. I'm glad it ended up okay. I just feel like I wasn't as in the spirit this year, only literally on Christmas Eve. And I was like, okay, at least the joy of the Lord made an appearance, you know? And then yesterday was like, meh. So today I'm just like, let's get it moving. Let's move on. Still with the gratitude in our hearts, but let's move on. Okay, so I'm gonna clean up my Christmas puzzle. I'm gonna like clean up the gift bags I have. I'm gonna put my laundry away. I'm gonna change my sheets. These sheets look like they've been on here for a while, but I haven't slept in my bed a lot the last like month or so. So anywho, we're gonna do all that, and then I'll fill you in later about what I read. So let's go. Sun shines bright, and the snow it falls. Sun shines bright. Sun shines bright. You know, I love these sheets, but till this day, like, I don't know what this pattern is. They look like little stink bugs. Okay, so I kind of just did some random stuff. I put away bags that I can reuse next year for Christmas. I changed my sheets, and now I'm gonna vacuum, kind of clean off some surfaces and stuff. And I swept, but I didn't film that or anything. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. And then I'm gonna put away those like little Christmas knickknacks. And then honestly, I'm fighting the urge to clean up the decorations downstairs. The decor wasn't decoring this year. Unfortunately, last year I felt like I did so good and I was so proud of it. I don't know what it was about this year. Like, something wasn't there. Maybe it's because our tree was like leaning and tilting and we didn't have a star, and it just kind of, it wasn't the ideal way I would have had it. I honestly can't put my finger on it, but I might mess around and just pick some stuff up. I might just do it. Wow, it's stanky. Stinks. Does anyone else feel like vacuuming is really hard? Armpits sweating, curls falling, okay? I almost, this isn't the first time I've vacuumed, by the way, but I almost contemplated how to vacuum like you know what you're doing, because it's a workout. The cord and I think my vacuum though is like really heavy. That thing weighs like 60 pounds. So, struggled. We're pretty much done. I'm gonna get rid of this little thing right here, and we'll talk books. Hi, okay, let's talk about what I read in December. So it is only December 26th, so I am currently reading Finley Donovan is Killing It by Ellie Cosimano. Not sure, but I just want to talk about it here really quickly because I think if I do it at the end of January, it's just gonna feel too far away. But I think it's like my prediction for it, only being on chapter 6, is that I might give it like a 3.5. Pretty good. I'm curious to see where it goes, but I'm not obsessing over it yet. So honestly, we'll see. As far as the remainder of what I've read this month goes, this month has been interesting. It's been a little bit disappointing. I just don't know what happened this month, because last month I had like my best reading month ever, and this month was a flop. So I had 1 5-star, and that was Happy Place. And this is the second Emily Henry book I've read, the first one being Beach Read, and I honestly did not love that book. I was very disappointed in Beach Read, but I read it a few years ago, so maybe my opinions have changed. But Happy Place was completely different for me. This was completely 5 stars. I mean, I literally cried probably every 3 pages, and I annotated the whole thing. I didn't do tabs or anything like that, but I took so many notes and like underlined so many things because it was just so quotable. But I feel like most people know what this book is about. This is basically about a couple that's broken up, and they're going to a beach house that they go to every year with their friends, and their friends don't know that they're broken up because these friends have kind of like all gone separate places in their lives, and they don't keep up as much, but they do still see each other every year and live out that annual tradition. They're gonna announce to their friends that they're no longer together, and a bunch of other news kind of starts to take precedent, so they're like, we can't tell our friends. So they kind of have to fake being together throughout this trip, and it was just amazing. It was literally amazing. I felt like all the friendships were really interesting, and all the dynamics of like friendships changing throughout the years was super interesting. And just like found family and second chance romance and forced proximity, and also just like oh, fake dating. Like, it was all of that. It was so many things, but like I'm not even like a, oh, here are the tropes girl. I just felt like this had so many messages within it. Oh, I related to a lot of the things that they kind of talked about as far as like your life changing and you growing up and things changing and like what do you really want? Who do you really want to be? Where do you want to go in life? And I just felt like there was so much explored in this book and it was done so well. Like I never felt like anything was left incomplete. No like plot holes. It was just honestly so good and so visual. Book. I would honestly read this again. I don't really say that about many books because I don't like to reread things, but this was just amazing. The next thing I read was a short story. It was called Evidence of the Affair by none other than Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave this a 3.25. This book was written Okay, this book was written in letter format and it's really short. It's a short story. I think it was like 80 pages. And it felt pretty predictable, but it was honestly kind of nice to just sit and read like a short story and know, hey, I'm gonna sit down and finish this by the time I get up. I found that really comforting and a really enjoyable experience. So I was like, you know what? I need to kind of do that a little bit more. And I would recommend it just because it is what it is. It's really quick and it's interesting. Oh, and before that actually, so the next one we'll talk about is The Housemate Secret. So I rated that a 3.75. It followed a very similar format as the first Housemate book. So it was kind of very familiar reading it. Like I felt like almost like I was rereading The Housemaid, but at the same time, the plot twists, I think I'm just not really great at predicting plot twists, but the plot twist to me was interesting. I didn't see that coming. I wasn't like shook or anything because I feel like I sort of understand how Freida McFadden writes, but I'm just not a good guesser. It was a similar vibe to The Housemaid and I don't regret reading it. It was good. Was it amazing? No, it was kind of forgettable, I'd say. And if I'm ever gonna think of The Housemaid, I'm honestly just gonna think of the first one, not the second. The next thing I read after that was a DNF. So I had quite a few DNFs in this video actually, which is like sort of a bummer, but I really did try my best. And these books are really loved. I'm pretty sure like they had great reviews. I just don't know if I was like in the headspace or what, because even in my last video I was like, I want to read these, I want to get these done. And maybe that points to the fact that I wasn't in the mood to read them. And maybe I will become in the mood at another point in time. I don't think there was anything really inherently like flawed with these books and the writing. I just think there were certain things like weren't for me. Because I'm going to be honest and be like, that book sucked because of XYZ. Or just like, I think it was a me problem, you know? So the next one that I tried to read was Anxious People, which I did DNF, I think at like chapter 44. This book is about a bank robbery gone wrong, and it kind of intertwines and connects everybody, I believe, at the end. So I never really got there to see how it turns out. But I think I would put this at like a 2 stars, just knowing what I know right now. I think the writing wasn't for me. So this is by Frederick Backman, who does Beartown, and I really liked Beartown, so I thought, let me give him another try. But I did also try to read a man called Ove, and I DNF'd that very shortly. So maybe Beartown is just a hit for me, where his other books are not. And it might just be a little bit too quirky for me, trying to like, be a little bit too endearing and trying to simultaneously cover different topics that are really important. But I feel like sometimes maybe it's trying to do too many things. Do I want it to take itself seriously all the time? Yes and no. Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine, and The French Exit, I feel like, oh, and The Family Fang, like I feel like have that similar vibe. This is a sad story, but it's covered up in quirkiness, but we're also exploring difficult topics, and I really liked those books. However, I just felt like it was, you know, when you look at someone and you're like, you're just doing the most, just stop. Like, I just don't think it read in a way that I enjoy. And it was like somehow fast-paced, but also dragging out. Like, I just felt like not a lot was happening. The next thing I also DNF'd like 70% of the way through was Everyone Dies Famous in a Small Town. I might pick this up again. I honestly thought that this was kind of good. I put this at 2 in my notes, but I honestly think it's a 2.5. I think the short story format was really hard for me to connect to each character, even though it does all intertwine in the end. I just felt like even the short stories themselves were very slow paced for being short stories, and you couldn't connect to the characters very well. So I didn't really get attached to anything in the story. But since they are short stories, it's not like I didn't finish the book, you know? Was I not paying attention? all the stories intertwine, but I'm trying to figure out if that happens at the end or if there were small details I should have been picking up on. But I listened to a lot of this on audiobook, and I just found that my attention would tend to waver, and I got towards the end and I was like, you know what? I don't want to continue to read something that I'm not fully present for and not really that excited about, so I just stopped. Like I said, honestly, maybe one day I would read it again. Nothing is off the table. There are certain books that I DNF and I'm like, no, we're never doing that again. But for some reason, the ones that I DNF'd this month, I don't hate. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Maybe the tone of the books doesn't really match like the dreary kind of weather we've been having, like the little holiday blues I sometimes get, or like the seasonal stuff that can sometimes affect me, because I was in a funk. I'm not in a funk anymore, miraculously. That's a whole nother story, but I'm not in a funk anymore. So I think when I was reading that, it just wasn't right for me. The other book that I DNF'd really recently was Ask Again, Yes. I got pretty far in this too, and I ended up listening to a lot of it over audiobook, and I just felt like my attention, again, was not fully there. I found myself like falling asleep during it at one point, and there were certain chapters where I was like, this is interesting, I want to know what happens. But Ask Again, Yes is about two families that were next door neighbors, and it follows their history throughout the years because there was a traumatic event that pulls the two families together, and at the same time, two of the young kids have like a little bit of a romance going on, but because of this traumatic event, it really creates a lot of difficulty between the two families. And as time goes on, you follow their journey of how they got through this traumatic event and what becomes of like the romance between the two kids. And it follows this family through like, honestly, probably like a 40-year span. It just was a really slow burn kind of book, because we're talking 40 something years here, I think. Maybe like 20 or 30. Oh, next 30 years. It was just a little bit kind of slow for me, and it has like an undertone of sadness. Like there is a hopeful undertone as well, but I think overall the events that took place in this book, I just couldn't find myself enjoying it as much as I would have liked to. This is definitely really like literary fiction. I think I like literary fiction, but I think this was almost maybe not even, I don't think I was even really the target audience for this. Not that you can't read books that you're not the target for, absolutely can, but I think this was just so different than what I would actually normally pick up. But I was really drawn to the synopsis a few months ago, but it was just so different than anything I'd pick up. I stopped like probably right here, and then what I did was I looked up how does the story end, and I spent 4-5 minutes reading how the rest of the story ended, and I need to remember to do that more. If I care about a story but I don't care to read it, I need to remember that, hey, you can look up how the story ends and sort of get the same idea. That's that. I gave that like a 2.75, just because I did think the writing was really good, and I did think it was exploring really interesting themes. Don't get me wrong. You gotta be talented to write that. It just wasn't for me. The last book that I read was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, and this book was really hard for me to rate. So this is my first Lauren Asher book, and I did not realize that all of her books, they all got that spice thing going on, and that's really not for me. First of all, the story is about two childhood rivals that both grew up and are in the home redesign industry in their respective ways, and they kind of meet up again after a good few years in their hometown and kind of get off to a rough start, because it is kind of like an enemies, rivals to lovers type situation. And it kind of just explores their journey together. And I've never really read a book that's that kind of romance. And honestly, there was a lot of things I liked about it. I was really invested in the story. I read it in 2 days, and it's like a 500-page book, I think. But I read it really fast and I was really invested. However, I didn't really like any of the characters too much. But I really liked the story itself, and I really liked the setting. I liked the industry that they were in and how that was a topic that kept coming up, because they were redesigning houses, interiors. The rivals thing to lovers was really cringy. I just don't really like the way that they were talking to each other. Some of the inner dialogue was so cringy. It's like partially in Spanish, because the characters, I think they were Mexican, or they're Hispanic. So there was first of all, a lot of the Spanish didn't seem translated in a way that was smooth. Like, seemed like a Google Translate type of situation. I don't think it was technically wrong. It was just like, this doesn't sound like native. Like, it sounds very like Google Translate. And they kept having internal dialogues where they would call the other one like cabron or like something just cringe. It was so cringy, y'all. Every other 5 seconds, it was like a curse word translated in Spanish. And I'm like, does anyone think like this? Do people think like this? It sounded so unnatural. I was like, is anyone's internal monologue like this? Like, every 5 seconds, you're just like, damn. But what? Like, I don't know. It was so cringy. I could keep going. I just don't want to like, roast it too hard. They cursed a lot in that book, which I don't care if it flows. If it makes sense, do it. If it's so inorganic and ingenuine in the book, like, it was just there to be there. And now I'm ranting because it was so weird. And then don't get me started about the spice. I had to skip chapters, y'all. It just felt like they were vibing, boom, spice scene. And I'm like, make it make sense. Make it make sense. And then because of those spice scenes, I did not believe in their relationship. I was like, so why do y'all like each other again? What's y'all's connection? It literally was just sexual tension. That's their connection, I feel like. And that's, to me, I'm gonna need something a little deeper. I'm gonna need something a little bit deeper just because I just didn't believe it very much. Like, yeah, y'all can be together, great, good luck, have fun, but I'm not really sold on what it is you guys like about each other. It just all felt very plot driven and spice driven a little bit. I don't think I'll be reading another one of her books because I'm just not into that. But it was fun to try it. Honestly, like, I gave it a 4 stars because I feel like the story itself was good. But characters, no. The smut, no. The dialogue, no. The setting, yes. And I think that's it. I loved the setting. Oh, and of course, like I said, what they did for work and stuff. Anyways, that's what we've read. I'm gonna go get sushi with my friends shortly. And that's pretty much all we have going on today. This month was kind of weird as far as books go, but I am excited for next month because I have plans to read books that I've been really wanting to read, and I feel like I'm in the mood to read. So I think I want to read Carrie Soto's back next. Okay, well, see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Yeah, I should